welcome to the webinar from Heath factory in Cornwall in the southwest of the UK, where today, typical Cornish summer, we've got howling wind, rain going sideways, but that doesn't matter because today we've got a very happy occasion. We are joined today by our friend Dave McDonald, the sound engineer, and he's come in to have a chat with us and take some questions from you guys. We've got the Heath marketing team here in attendance today. We've got Nicola on the controls and David Kirk from marketing. So we're all ready to take your questions, which you can type in from your interface on the web, and we can look at some of those questions and try and get back to you and make it part of the discussion. So again, thank you very much. We've got people from all around the world, all different parts of the planet in different time zones, all keen to have a chat with us and learn a little bit about Dave and some of his thoughts on mixing and things in general. So welcome. So hi Dave, you'd like to say hello to the people out there in the world?
Hi everybody out there. Good to see you all online, and hoping to hear some interesting questions.
Yeah, we've just started getting questions coming in from people. Maybe a little bit of background as far as Heath is concerned. I think I first met Dave about 3 years ago. I think that was on the Florence machine.
That's correct. No.
I think you'd heard, I don't know, how did you hear about iLive? I think we got a call from you through someone. And
yeah, it's a friend of mine who was a tour manager at the time for Florence and the Machine, mentioned about some other guys who had been using some of your desks, and we were just up late one night having a couple of drinks, and he was just talking about the ease and the size of the board, and he got me quite kind of interested and gave me a contact, and so I proceeded to go ahead and contacted some of your staff, and next thing I know, a brand new iLive was rolled out, and you know, I didn't know which way it was going to go. Oh, hear that wind then.
Yeah, the wind's howling.
And we hooked up the desk and ran a sound check with Florence, and I was amazed instantly of how clear it was. And what also was quite amazing was that the house guys listened to the desk, and they were all sort of, you know, took a stand back and thought, oh, this is quite something.
That's very true, because I find that a lot. Obviously, I work for Heath. My name's Leon, by the way, Leon, product manager. And obviously, a lot of the time I spend listening to Heath stuff. It's amazing when you visit different people. They're the ones that are used to listening to different systems, different speaker systems, and they can say straight away the difference between sort of sonic qualities or overall the way a mix comes together. And it's really good to hear that. So that Florence thing, you're actually starting the tour with that. It was a kick-off.
Yeah, I mean, it was right at the beginning of the tour. And that was the sound check, you know, and obviously we did the show, and the verdict at the end of the show was a big thumbs up, and from that point onwards I've been a convert, really.
And that was a front of house and monitor system, as I remember.
That's correct. We
so the musicians had their own fallback system.
That's correct. We had another guy on monitors called Cameron Blackwood. And, you know, at the end of that night, we both had a long discussion about what had just happened. And,
yeah, because it was the first time you'd actually really seen the hardware or the interfaces.
I didn't really know that much about it at all, apart from a conversation late one night.
Well, I think that's the great thing about iLive, is that you're there to just do the job, which you have to do. You've been doing it in analog, you do it in digital, which is to handle audio, do some various management, distribute stuff. And remember you guys asking me the questions and saying, how do we do this? And you press a few buttons and it happens. What you don't want is the scratching of heads and people having to go and look at manuals and work out if there's ways of doing something. The basic tasks should be easy to do.
Well, basically, that's, you know, I'm not a particularly technical person. You know, I like to mix. I like to listen to music. I know how it should sound. And that was what was amazing that day, was you turning up with the equipment and in a very short space of time showing me how this runs, and basically you just standing away and letting me get on with it, and having a great show. Not a show where you're frightened to touch something because you don't know what that does, or just keeping it very, very basic. It was a full-on, proper artistic show with things flying off in all directions. Creating a great palette of sound, and there's not many desks I know you can walk up to and do that.
Cool. And I think one of the early kind of concepts of the iLive system was to make it very much a hands-on experience with an easy interface. So we made a small screen. We didn't even think the screen was going to be that important for the live mixing. We wanted people to be able to do the job they'd normally done for years on analog, which was hands-on faders and use mute buttons and adjust EQ and stuff. So I remember, we didn't have to go through lots of screen menus or anything. You were up mixing pretty quickly. And I think that's been the experience of a lot of people at festivals, that they've seen an iLive and they might not have used it before, but the kind of walk up and go learning time is quite quick, and I think that's because we've made the surface simple.
Well, that's where I think a lot of people who have experienced iLives know its strength, is that you can walk up to it and it's very familiar, in the sense that if you've worked with analog boards in the past, and you can walk up to this board and you know exactly where you are instantly.
And did you like the way you could lay out the board? Often with digital, people say, oh, so on the right hand side those must be outputs, and where are my inputs? And when you explain to people, look, you know what, you can put things where you like. So did you find that
that works perfectly? I mean, I'm not the tidiest person or the most methodical person in the world, but I do have my own way of doing things.
Yes.
And to a degree that's been sort of drummed into me from the old ways of doing things, and that works perfectly. It's having the power to place your stuff anywhere that you want.
And you didn't mind using layers or that kind of thing?
No. Yeah, the layer section of it is very, very easy. I've worked with some other boards where the layers are not easy, and you can get yourself in a mess. But this is very, very easy.
Okay. And a common question which is coming up is, with the front of house and monitors split sort of situation, it's a frequently asked question is, what happens about preamps and how does it get split? Well, I can answer the technical side. Is what happens is one of the racks where you plug the microphones in is the master rack, and that has the master analog preamp control. And then what we do is we take a split just after that conversion, and then we can send it out on various different formats into the next iLive system where they have digital trim. So the question is, everyone asks is, how does that work between front of house and monitors? Is there a problem, or do you have any particular preferences? Who has analog gain, or is it an issue?
It seems like it should be an issue on paper, but in practice, it's always been really, really smooth. I mean, I've tended to have the gain at the front of the house. Mm-hmm. The monitor engineers had the trim, for his level. And it's having an understanding with your monitor engineer, Communication is great. If you're going to adjust something quite radically on the gain, let your monitor engineer know. And I've encountered this from a lot of people. Oh, well, hasn't it been a problem? And it's been absolutely the opposite. It's been so easy.
Well, I think having a lot of headroom on the preamp start is helpful, because the iLive can take quite a hot front end, so it's not as crucial as something. If the gain is in the ballpark, it can wear quite a variance in dynamics and input. But I think people do get very excited about different types of automatic systems of compensation and this sort of things between front of house and monitors. And I think maybe when you don't know the monitor engineer, it's a festival situation, then I would always say a really good thing to do in that situation is go for an analog split and have completely different systems.
Absolutely.
But when you know the person or you're doing the production, surely it's a question of, hey, let's use a piece of Cat5 cable and share some signals and be grown up about it, really. So, yeah. So it's not been an issue for you having to share.
No, not it's been at the bottom of my list.
The bottom of the list. Well, we'll work up through that list now in the next half an hour. Okay. Someone's asked, and this is again going to be quite a common question, is do you use external effects or just the iLive ones? How did you find, what you had on board in the iLive, as
a toolbox?
Yeah, what was that like?
Well, I've always said right from the start, it's for me, it's had some of the best effects out there on the market, and for it to be built into the desk, it's fantastic. And I can swear with my hands on my heart that I've never used a single piece of external outboard or any processing. I've tried a bit of external processing, vocal processing during sound checks, found I don't need it, and it's just gone back off into its box and back off into its crate. Effects and processing, you don't need much more. You don't need any more, in fact.
So you would say you were happy what your ears were telling you, what was coming out of the speakers. You didn't have to start looking for more technology to do something with the...
You've got great compression. You've got great gates. One of my favourite things on it is the de-esser and the what do you call it? The histogram.
Histogram, that's right. On the compressor and gates, it shows you over a period of time how much gain reduction you're getting, or when the noise gate's opening and closing, so you can see the kind of nature of the control of the processing.
I tend to use that as a gauge with my hearing, and just a visual gauge that we're running on the same page.
I guess that's a bit like keeping the front of house rack in the corner of your eye when the old days, by looking at the noise gates opening and seeing the meters on the compressors.
Exactly, and and as far as the reverbs are concerned and delays and any of the the standard effects that you would use on a vocal, it's got it all. And you don't, with just a little bit of tailoring on screen, you got what you want.
And I think you're very fortunate to work with some fantastic artists and singers especially. But of course, and their voice, I would imagine, should be what the audience want to hear. But I know you do like some effects, and you come from an analog background. You like some of the old-fashioned type of delays and treatments. So you might, you're not frightened of using an ADT or a delays or that kind of thing yourself to play, but it doesn't have to form part of the artist's sound as such. It's not like a desk. No. You can't mix without this desk, or as the artist hasn't. You believe that they've got the sound and you're just getting out the speakers.
Yeah. I've always had a little motto: is choose your artist well.
Very good. Yeah.